If there's such a thing as a controversial lightning rod Baptist minister, then one is headed to North Texas. He's the former head of Jerry Falwell's Liberty Baptist Seminary, and his claims of having terrorist ties have clouded his credibility and perhaps his future. Channel 8's Brett Shipp has more tonight.
Let me tell you what the last 2 weeks of my life have been. I got hit with oranges.
Not what you might expect to hear from the Dean of Theology at Liberty Baptist Seminary, but it's part of the Ergun Caner mystique and legend of being raised a radical Muslim in Turkey and an enemy of America.
I hated you. That may be harsh, but as Dr. Hayes told you, my madrasa, my training center was in Beirut.
And he says he was trained to be a terrorist when his family moved.
And so we came to America. It was 78.
Once here, Caner says he converted to Christianity, then rose to national prominence after 9/11. That's when Tom Rich of Jacksonville, Florida, first heard his message.
He said, this is a quote, that he was trained to do that which was done on 11 September. Okay, which means, in no uncertain terms, I was trained to be a terrorist. You know, I was raised to be a terrorist.
But last summer, Caner's story started to unravel when skeptics found evidence that despite his claims...
I walked into the Stells Road Missionary Baptist Church in Columbus, Ohio, in full gear, full gefia, and a Quran.
The self-proclaimed young jihadist actually moved to the U.S. from Sweden, not Turkey, in 1969, not 1978, and grew up not carrying a Quran, but looking and acting like most every other kid his age. The discrepancies proved so damaging, Caner was demoted at Liberty and is now headed for North Texas.
What we'd like to start off on the program today with is I got word, I forget when it was, I was told when I came in channel to check my Twitter feed, and I had to scroll quite a ways, so it was when I had been offline for quite some time, that a fellow in California had shown up at this conference. He didn't have the Hadith 2425 shirt that we have on the website, and I need to relink that had the Angel Contreras uber cool graphic on it. But he did have one that he had made that's saying, could you please quote Hadith 2425 and tell us what its significance is to the Quran? And let me repeat for everybody who isn't aware, there is a Hadith 2425. The point of this whole thing is to demonstrate that as even to this day, Ergun Caner and Norman Geisler refuse to admit the obvious. And that is that the excuses that Norman Geisler have posted, which I know came directly from Ergun Caner, I know this was the stuff that they passed out at Liberty, but it's still on his website. Well, at least it was last time I checked. I haven't checked in about 2 weeks now, maybe 3 weeks. But the excuses that have been offered are absolutely ridiculous. They are beyond absurd. They have been fully refuted. And as a result, you have Christians who are just simply acting in a grossly untruthful fashion. That's just all there is to it. It's a grossly untruthful thing to act in the way that they are acting, and they just refuse to repent. They refuse to admit. And the question is a perfectly valid question in light of the excuses that have been offered by Ergun Caner and Norm Geisler. Now, I got on Twitter, and here's a fella, and his name's Colin in California, and he's saying, "Hey, I wore the shirt to the conference," and so let's go ahead and let's talk with Colin in California. Hey, Colin.
Hey.
How you doing?
Doing pretty good.
So you are the brave man. I assume that you were the only one at the conference wearing a shirt that mentions Hadith 2425.
I believe so.
He didn't see anybody else, huh?
Didn't, no.
Now, you made this. Tell us exactly what it says on the shirt.
It says, please quote Hadith 24:25 and explain its relevance to the Quran.
That's all it says?
That's all it says.
No pictures?
No graphics.
No graphics, no nothing. All right. And so there was nothing that mentions either Ergun Caner or Norman Geisler by name on your shirt, is there?
No.
Uh-huh. Okay. So you showed up. This was the Costa Mesa Calvary Chapel?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And tell us what happened. I mean, Twitter is unfortunately very, very brief in what it can say. So I've only gotten, snippets at 140 characters a shot. Because you mentioned at some point that he was sitting at a table. So had you attended some sessions or
yes,
just tell us what happened?
I attended everything except for the last session of the conference. So I was there the previous day, and then Saturday morning, the very first session was Dr. Caner.
Okay, but you didn't have the shirt on the previous day?
I didn't, no.
Okay.
I wore it just the last day.
All right. So when did you actually encounter Dr. Caner?
I went, after his session, I went out to the fellowship hall where they had all the merchandise tables set up, and he was sitting there at his table with his merchandise.
Okay.
So that's where.
Okay, so you listened to his presentation. By the way, did they say anything about the sessions being made available, or was there a sign-up sheet you could get them, or anything like that?
There was a sign-up sheet to get DVDs. I personally didn't get one because some of my friends did, and I figured I could borrow theirs. But
okay.
I was assuming that was a DVD of the entire conference.
Okay, all right. Well, then that means probably that talk will be made available. The audio will come out eventually, and I'd really like to hear it because I only heard about how long did he speak? Do you remember?
45 minutes, maybe.
Okay, so I've heard a little less than half of it. All right, okay. And was it primarily, the great Islamic secret, the parallels with Mormonism and Joseph Smith?
Yeah, that was the whole talk.
Okay, all right. Well, of course, I heard him talking about, teenagers calling him at 3 o'clock in the morning. I broke up with my girlfriend, and his wife is not Southern; she's country, and she can kill you, and all that stuff. I heard that. But did you catch the fact that he admitted that he came to the United States in 1969?
Yes, I heard that.
Yeah.
Julie wrote that down.
Yeah, I'm sort of like, isn't that what all those bloggers were saying, that live in their parents' basement and don't have a life? Isn't that how he described all of us, as I recall? Yeah, okay. All right, so you go into the fellowship hall, and is there a line, or is he just sitting here at the table, or what?
It was more like concentric circles. There wasn't really an organized line. People were just kind of grabbing DVDs and throwing down money, and it was a little disorganized. So I was just trying to, work my way up to the front of the people.
Okay. And so you finally get there, and what do you do?
I actually didn't get to do anything before he picked me out of the crowd. I was just standing there, and I was gonna ask him if I could shake his hand, thank him for coming and talking, whatever. But I didn't actually get a chance to say anything before he called me out. Said, another one of my stalkers.
Aha, a stalker. Okay. And was this said with joy and happiness?
No, sort of cynicism.
Uh-huh. And then what? To the best of your recollection, what did he say to you?
I asked him. I said, me, because I wasn't sure if he was talking to me directly. There was actually a gentleman during the session who stood up and started yelling things at him.
Really?
And he stood up, and Dr. Caner was talking about, I don't remember what, but he said something about some people have a problem with me, and right after he said that, somebody interrupted him and said, I have a problem with you. You're a fraud. If you guys don't believe me, look it up on YouTube. It was quite distracting.
So this was before the period that I heard. This would have been earlier in his talk.
Very early, yes, very early.
And what did they do with that gentleman?
The security came in and escorted him out, and Dr. Caner said, "It's okay. It's okay to have stalkers. It's how you respond to them."
Oh, okay. All right. So did he look like, did he have any particular distinguishing characteristics? Was he Middle Eastern, American?
No, he was American, tall, dark hair. Don't remember much about. I was kind of on the other side of the room.
Okay. And that's how many people do you think were in attendance?
Oh, a couple hundred at least.
A couple hundred?
Yeah.
So was this in the main auditorium?
Yes.
Oh, a couple hundred at Calvary Chapel Costa Mesa would sort of rattle around a little bit. I mean, seriously. I mean, how many would you estimate that auditorium can seat?
Oh,
it's pretty big, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty big.
I've never been there. I'm not expecting to get an invitation anytime soon either. But.
It was the morning session, so there weren't as many people as there were at the other sessions.
Okay, all right.
There was still a good number of people there.
Okay, all right. So he's already had one guy get up and say you're a fraud, and and by the way, that would not certainly be the way to handle it, obviously. And yeah. So that has probably poisoned the atmosphere just a little bit once he sees you. So what does he say once he sees you?
So he says, another one of my stalkers. And I said, me? Because I wasn't sure if he was talking to me because I didn't really do anything. He said, yes, you. We don't come to your conferences. And I said, I'm sorry, what exactly makes me a stalker? He said, your T-shirt. The people who made those T-shirts are godless pagans. You all hate my ministry and Dr. Geisler and his ministry. And I was like, I figured he was referencing Alpha and Omega Ministries and that T-shirt.
Right.
But I just thought I'd inform him. I said, my friend made me this T-shirt. And he said, your friend is a godless pagan. And I said, I asked him to make me the T-shirt. Are you implying that I'm a godless pagan? And at that, he just kind of rolled his eyes and motioned to his security guards and pointed at me. And I said, excuse me, Dr. Caner, have I done anything wrong? And he didn't say anything more. A security guard motioned to me and asked me, sir, can I talk to you over here? I said, absolutely. Walked over there and didn't ever get to talk to Dr. Caner again after that.
Did you get an opportunity to explain to anyone there what the significance of the question actually was meant to indicate?
No, I was. The security guards seemed to have really no idea what was going on at all. They at least seemed like they didn't even know why he was upset because they didn't give me an explanation for it. So I figured if I tried to explain to people, I had explained to the people from my church who were asking me why I'm wearing this weird T-shirt. What is Hadith? I don't know what that means. But they kind of ushered me out of there before I had an opportunity to really ask any meaningful questions.
So, but you weren't kicked out of the conference. You were able to attend the rest of the sessions that day?
Yes, yeah. I was watched by security, and I had people coming asking me questions, people from the security asking me questions. But
what kind of questions were they asking you?
The first question they asked me was, during one of the session immediately following, I was a little antsy, a little shaken up, and I didn't want to sit down, so I went and I stood up in the lobby and was listening to Dr. Geisler from the lobby, and a gentleman came up to me, and I assume he was from security because he was following me around most of the day. He said, sir, is there a reason why you're standing up? And I just said, I just a little antsy, wanted to stand, but I still wanted to listen, so I thought I'd stand in the back. He said, okay, and I said, is that okay? And he said, yeah, that's fine. And then the head of security asked me later on, another time when I went walking in the bookstore trying to avoid Dr. Caner's table. I didn't want to cause any more problems than I already had. He came up to me from the other side of the room and asked me if I was from Alpha and Omega Ministries, to which I was kind of confused. I was like, do you mean like, do I support them? Do I like them? Do I know who James White is? The question was kind of confusing. And so I just told him, I said, I like James White. I listen to everything he says, but I'm not from Alpha and Omega Ministries, no. And he said, okay, that's all I needed to know, and walked away. And that was pretty much it.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, there you go. So the statement that was the statement that I know caught you especially by surprise was that the people who made that shirt are godless pagans. That's the direct quote?
Yes.
Godless pagans. Okay, all right. Well, at least we know how this works. We've been calling for Dr. Caner to confess and repent and seek restoration. And what does he view people who do that as? Godless pagans. At least didn't say we were Muslims. I suppose, I guess that could have shown up eventually, but very, very interesting. Well, I hope that I don't know what to say. I was very interested in seeing what would happen if someone was brave enough to even attempt to ask the question. It seemed obvious to me. Now, I want to confirm something here, because you mentioned this in the tweet. He specifically said, we hate his ministry and we hate Dr. Geisler's ministry. That's what he said?
Yeah, both them and their ministry.
Okay, all right. Them and their ministry. Okay.
Yes.
So even though your shirt didn't mention either one, they well know exactly what that question is meant to indicate, and there's no confusion on their part of what the issues actually are. They just have absolutely no intention of ever addressing this issue very, very clearly. All right, hey Colin, thank you very, very much. I feel like saying sorry your day might have been ruined, but actually it'll probably make it a considerably more memorable experience for you anyways, because from what I listened to, I think you probably got a whole lot more about Islam out of almost any one of the programs we've done on the subject than you did what you're listening to anyways. So that'll make it a little bit more, I don't know, memorable for you. And I very much appreciate the tweets and letting us know about what happened, and you're taking the time to call today.
Yeah, thanks.
Hey, thanks, Colin. God bless.
God bless.
All right, bye-bye. Well, there you go, folks. Colin in California asks the question, what is Hadith 24:25? And how does Ergun Caner respond? Does it respond as a person who has reflected upon his deceptive actions, where he has lied to people?
Don't poke me. That's just a little creepy. I don't want to do your mafia wars. I'm not a zombie. I'm not a werewolf. And I don't farm in real life. So don't expect me to farm on Facebook. I do Twitter. I do Twitter because it's the grumpy old man equivalent. 140 characters, over. So if you got a problem with me, hit me up and tell me what I did wrong.
Everybody, you think I'm crazy? Look it up on YouTube, okay?
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay, guys. Honored to have a stalker. Born in Stockholm, Sweden. I think I already told you that. son of a Turkish Muslim, already told you that, the oldest son of 3 sons, raised in a devout Muslim home, saved by Jesus Christ, and a believer, a Master of Arts, a Bachelor of Arts, a Master of Divinity, and a Master of Theology, and a doctorate from the University of South Africa. And I get to be called a fraud. That's okay. That's all right. It shouldn't disrupt you or disturb you. It happens. It's not what they say about us, it's how we respond. I could tell you far worse things about me than they could.
Listening to his statements, as I mentioned to Colin, and he heard it as well, the story about coming in 1979, trained in jihad from a country where, well, you know, I will say one thing. He got the date right now. How can he not? We've proven the exact time of his coming. But throughout the presentation, he still identified himself, first of all, as Turkish. He's only half Turkish. His mother's Swedish. And he still pretended, when he talked about Muslims, or when he talked about the people who took over Jerusalem, he said we. He told a story about if you go to a market in the Middle East, and if you look at an item, then you put it down and start to walk away, he says, we will hunt you down, and we will not let you go. And then he goes into this, oh, you must 15, 10, oh, you're stealing from my food out of my children's mouths, and all the rest of this stuff. And he's doing the I'm Turkish thing. He can't any longer do the when I came here I didn't even know a Christian thing, which used to be the central part of his presentations. It can't be there. But he never said, I came here from Sweden. He just simply said, when I came here, leaving the audience open to conjecture as to where he had been before. And, of course, he doesn't mention that he was, 2.5, and that he grew up outside of Toledo, Ohio. That stuff, he the fact that his father was out of his life at a young time in his of his growing up, and that he grew up as just a regular kid in a regular high school, that stuff, that's all gone. But at least he's admitting, the issues. But as Church and Fan pointed out, even in his presentation of Islam today, in listening to him today, he made some mistakes concerning the festivals, which, again, would be common for someone like him that only has a surface level knowledge of Islam, did not actually grow up as a practicing Muslim. He claimed to have done all the prayers and all the rest of stuff. I just don't believe it. I don't believe it for a second. A person who grew up doing all the prayers until his high school years would not confuse the Shahada with the beginning of Surat al-Fatiha. I'm sorry, it just doesn't happen. And even in this lecture, he starts talking about what Muhammad said what Jesus said what Muhammad said that Jesus said in Surah 19, and he messes it up. And he says that Jesus said I'm God. I mean that I'm not God, but I've been sent by Allah and blah, blah, blah. He doesn't even accurately represent Jesus' words in Surah Maryam. And then when he gives the Shahada, he inserts the phrase final, the word final, and Muhammad is the final prophet. There is no word final in the Shahada. And since he hadn't already given the Shahada and explained its background, things like that, then again, if you're trying to get your information from Ergun Caner, what can I say? It's just, if this is the best that Veritas has to offer, and it's not because Jay Smith has taught for Veritas, and I just have to wonder, what does Jay Smith think about all this? I haven't asked him. Maybe I should, because it's just embarrassing. If they want to have somebody do a good presentation on Islam, bring Jay Smith in. I mean, his command of the Quran is excellent. His knowledge of the backgrounds is excellent. And you'll actually get accurate information. I mean, I'm just fearful for anybody at that conference to go out and start trying to talk to a Muslim and get their heads handed to them on a platter. There's reason for being concerned about these things, folks.